everybody. Next up, we play host to Manchester City. Kick-off on Saturday is at 5:30pm for the benefit of Sky TV. So you'll be able to meet up and have a nice session at your hostelry of choice pre-match without rushing. So Manchester City then. Played 2-1-2, much as one might expect. Their opener saw them stroll past Chelsea 2-0, whilst last weekend Ipswich Town had the temerity to take an early lead before City move up into nearly second gear to win 4-1. So business as usual then, or maybe not. For once, their final position in the league is less likely to be totally dependent on how well or how badly they play, with all sorts of legal shenanigans taking place. There are, of course, the legendary 115 charges sitting on the books. Now, those charges have been sitting there for, an age, with the authorities seemingly reluctant to move things forward. However, there's now a date set for sometime in November for some kind of hearing to start taking place. There is an interesting betting market to be had there. Will there be a verdict in the Man City case before those stranded astronauts get back? Of course, City's legal team have long had the tactic of annoy us and we'll tie you up in red tape. In this case, some legal proceedings were instigated to counter the Premier League's rule that owners can't simply pump money into a club by pretending somebody else is doing the paying. The word is that action is likely to be dismissed for the delaying tactic it really is. Still, Daisy's quite happy with their relatively quiet transfer summer so far. A mere 2 players turned up in Manchester this season. Daisy counted them, twice. They spent £21 million on Brazilian winger Savinho. The player arrived from French second-tier outfit Troyes, where he spent the last 2 years. Or rather he didn't. You see, he simply didn't play a single match for the French team, spending the 2 years away. Partly at PSV, but mostly at Girona. This did not amuse the Troyes faithful, who felt that if they'd signed a player, he ought to have been turning out for them in their struggle against relegation, something they avoided only because a team below them had financial issues. It did seem a little odd that a club would spend a club record €6 million and not play him. Until you consider this. Troyes didn't actually own the player. He was signed by the City Football Group and merely assigned to Troyes, which is also a member of the City Football Group, which would also account for his spell at Girona, who are also, you get the picture. So nothing fishy about the transfer at all then. Slightly more straightforward, though still a little bit odd, was the deal that brought Ilkay Gundogan back to the club after one whole season at Barcelona. Gundogan bade an emotional farewell, heading off to Catalonia, having captained the citizens to the so-called Champions League and FA Cup treble. And now he's back. One can only presume he missed the rain. And that's Manchester City's signings. On to the wild and wacky world of association football? Go on then. Actually, it's been a very quiet week for the quirky, although I did find a headline in The Independent which stated that Gary Lineker had gone into print to say that Elon Musk is a rather odd bloke. I think you can insert your own pot, kettle, stroke irony jokes here. Far too easy, really. Too easy, so we'll move on to us. Wednesday? Well, hard work and unconvincing are the 2 words that sum that one up. Kilman continues to impress, and there were some good spots in mini spells by players here and there, but there was nothing of any consistency for any meaningful length of time during the game. Much of that can be attributed to there being 2 teams out there on a sultry evening, both trying to get to know their teammates. However, I would express some concern at the use of Fulkrug. Now, I know it's early days, but my hope when we signed him was that, with a new manager in tow, we might actually have round pegs playing in round holes. However, Wednesday saw the lad look on occasion as isolated, as those 2 American astronauts. Now, I'm hoping that Wednesday was just a matter of early days, bedding in and all that, but I will admit there were periods of play that looked depressingly familiar. Let's move on from that then. And as for the goal, I've not had a chance to look at the replay, but my people tell me that the ball may have gone in off Bowen's arm. Do I feel sorry for Bournemouth as a consequence? Not a hope. Although such things don't get taken into account these days, Bowen's contact was completely accidental and unavoidable. Unlike, to take a completely random example, the goal scored by Callum Wilson down at their place, when there was a clearly deliberate handball that was allowed to go unpunished, along with the offside that was also ignored. On the bright side of things, Wan-Bissaka acquitted himself well despite playing on the wrong flank, following a late hamstring injury to Cresswell, who as a consequence will not be available for this one. Cresswell's the only definite absentee, although a number of others are a bit lacking in match fitness. Todibo still looked a bit off the pace on Wednesday and he was hooked at the interval, whilst Alvarez is still building up strength following his international hamstring problem. But other than that, there is a full squad to pick from. Well, for the prediction, it's hard to look much beyond an away win. We did give them a game in last season's corresponding fixture, and I guess this one is more about the performance than the result. However, the £2 that I was going to use to buy the world's smallest violin to place at a few Bournemouth supporters who could be bothered to make the trip last Wednesday will instead be placed on a repeat of last season's scoreline of 3-1 to them, if that's okay with you, Mr. Winston. Enjoy the game.